What's up, folks? So we're back to talk about Dark Side of the Ring Season 2, Episode 7. And I can't stop laughing because this is literally one of the funniest episodes. This is their funniest episode this season because all the other episodes have been really dark, deep, sensitive, emotional, and so forth. But this one was just absolutely funny. But Episode 7 was David Schultz and the slap heard around the world. Now, I knew I've get I've heard small parts of this story, but like again, being able to get the story full circle, and even now with my knowledge of wrestling as well, this is just I appreciate it just so much more. But man, David Shorts, man, he is the epitome of a pro wrestler. The dude was one of the realest wrestlers out there, and unfortunately for John Stossel, this was a case of when keeping it real goes wrong. He slapped the crap out of that dude. It's sure. I know there's like legal issues and ramifications in this, but like overall, just the slap. I mean, come on now. He asked a stupid question. He asked the wrestler was wrestling fake. Now you knew that if you paid for something like that, you were going to get that receipt coming in the form of a slap. You know it. But overall, David Schultz is just a wrestler who just wanted to keep the integrity in the business, and personally, he just even now to this day, he just is a guy that just doesn't want to be disrespected. No one wants to be disrespected. I don't want to be disrespected, but like overall, David Schultz is the character was just him times 10. You know, and Jim Cornette said it himself, and you can see like even seeing him as they're interviewing him right now during this day and age, he's just who he was as a wrestler divided by 10. So like you can just tell he's just the same person day in and day out, just with different level of intensity. But like what a character. And like back in the day, pro wrestlers, kayfabe was just the law of the land. And the guy just never broke that. So once he was a pro wrestler, he was that character day in and day out. But this episode was cool because this episode did emphasize on a lot of history in pro wrestling, which I love to hear more about things, especially before my time, and how this all came about. So it was cool, and you really can't have a story about talking about the history and the knowledge of the history of pro wrestling without Jim Cornette, who's a historian in pro wrestling. Love him or hate him, nowadays on Twitter, the guy just knows a bunch of story, and he is very much educated. He deeply cares about pro wrestling. It's actually kind of funny seeing him get a laugh about somebody who, in the likes of David Schultz, who wanted to protect the business, when Joe Cornette is another person who likes to protect the business and goes off the rails at times too, when people seems to want to tamper or with the integrity. But so David Schultz, who was trained by Herb Welch, is of another name I heard about, and he was one of the main person who passed this knowledge over to him, and the idea of like you got to protect the business. The number one rule: protect the business, keep it real, and you got to learn how to work. And you never expose the secrets. That is like the pact that you make when being a pro wrestler. So all the wrestlers, that's what they all live by. But like, we'll talk. We'll get into it in a little bit. But also too, what's really cool with David Schultz is like really hearing about his story and history with Hulk Hogan and how the two of them rivalry really, caught the eye of Vince McMahon, which ultimately elevated both of their careers. So while they were just independent wrestlers, these two larger than life figures were, they were the two main catalysts of each other, bringing the best of each other out, which ultimately got them to the majors in the WWF at the time, respectively, and caught the eye by Vince McMahon. So that's really cool to hear about that. But I gotta tell you, the one thing that really got the laughs going for me in this episode was hearing the old school promos. Oh my God, they still make me laugh. Like, man, you put a mic in front of some of these characters back in the day, they're gonna go for it. They know how to draw heat, and they just do not care. The promos back in the days, man, oh man. But man, I gotta tell you, there's some funny stuff. That's so funny in this episode. Like the one promo with Dr. D was in the kitchen with his family, his family and the kids and his wife, and like he was like he wasn't taking crap from his family. He's telling his wife to go cook, telling the kids he would choke them. can't talk back or whatever it may be. And so the cops went to Vince McMahon and said, hey, we need this guy's address. We're going to arrest him for child abuse. And they were like, yo, those were not even his kids. Like, it's all reenactment. So that just tells you, too, how good of a character he was, how good of a performer he was. And nonetheless, like, how much like they really respected the business of wrestling before people actually knew what was a work or not. You know, everything was just completely believable to them. So that was like, man, that had me dying so much. But let's be honest, for me to the viewers right now, about, let's get this straight, about, is wrestling real or fake? There is nothing fake about these athletes going out there risking their bodies and all the traveling they're doing day in and day out, performing for their fans. There's nothing fake about that. But is there storylines involved for the grand bigger scheme of things? Is this all one big episodic storyline and booking that goes for? Yes, there is. But there's nothing fake about them having to do the work in there. They have to train just as hard as anyone else. You know, they sustain real injuries similar to other sports that you would deem as, you know, real. People get torn ACL, such as basketball, concussions such as football. So like, it's nothing fake about what they do. But yes, there is a booking and storyline going into it. So like, to discredit somebody's hard work by saying that this is fake, it's completely unjust here. Like, that's my feelings to you all who's watching this right now. There's nothing fake about that. But so as this episode continued, I wasn't familiar with Eddie Mansfield, but God, man, that's a terrible dude, man. The dude was just looking to catch a check, and sure, something didn't go his way, and so he decided that he was going to equip the media with the tools to expose the business and ultimately try and kill the business by doing so. That's not cool, dude. Like, again, like, you don't get mad because something don't go your way and decide that you're going to jeopardize everybody's hard work and integrity because of that. But, ultimately, so John Stossel, who was doing the interviews, trying to really figure out and expose the business himself, who had worked with Eddie Mansfield, and he couldn't expose the wrestling for being fake without actually learning how it worked. So, nonetheless, John decided that he was going to come interview people with the WWF, WWE, and Vince McMahon was aware of this. And Vince McMahon, like, of all the characters Vince McMahon had back in the day, he decided David Schultz was the guy that was going to do this. And like, Vince knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly the person to get, and he knew exactly what was going to happen, and he told him to stay in character. But come on, now you knew exactly all that was going to happen here. You know, anybody and everybody could have saw this coming from a mile away. But come on, John asked the dumb question. He asked the wrestler, "Was it fake?" And he already said that he felt like the whole interview was intense, and he still went and asked the hot question that he look. First of all, for working in the media and working in the press and stuff like that, I know people that do this. I know people that does not care what the circumstances is. They will press the buttons in order to get the answer that they want. And quite frankly, a lot of it's just really uncomfortable, and it's just disrespectful at times. I'm not that guy, but people will do it. But so, like, this whole John character here, John Stossel, it doesn't surprise me that somebody would do and be such a weasel like he was. But yes, he asked the wrestler, was it fake? And he got the answer by a 5-finger discount to the face. And just like Joe Cornette said, he didn't even whine back, but he did give him that boom. Oh my God, man, he was guy for guy. If any of you guys have ever played the PlayStation games, the WWE PlayStation games, wrestling game, if you've ever played with Stephanie McMahon, she had the women's special, the women's slap special. That's exactly what I did. It was absolutely crazy. But like, to be honest, it was a dumb question. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It was a dumb question. But anyway, so when all this happened, it put a lot of attention on the WWE, because John was hurt. He was having problems with his hearing and lawsuits and all that came. So Vince McMahon obviously cut some checks to try to calm this down, but ultimately he sent Dr. D to Japan that would also try to take some heat off of him. But man, what did Japan do? Japan was like, yeah, we'll take him. Also, we're going to run this same thing. So he got to Japan, and Japan wasted no time in wanting him to smack a reporter too. And then Dr. D said, I ain't doing any of this unless y'all sign all these consent forms. So like, it's absolutely funny. But like, if you know Japan wrestling, even nowadays, you know this is right on par for something they would have did. So that's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, like, you know, all lawsuits are just ugly. And the fact that like John was stating that he had pain the entire time until the pain actually went away until he got paid, that just lets you know, like, you know, how this is like how that's proven. It's just a really ugly thing, and everyone's out to get money no matter what it is, no matter how truthful they are or not. People are just out to get money when it comes to lawsuit. But moving forward, it's also really cool to hear about the background and the build for WrestleMania 1, which we know WrestleMania 1 was really headlined by Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. And like I said, Hulk Hogan and Dr. D were really good friends. And at this time, you know, he was Dr. D, they didn't have work for him. He was there, but, you know, he wasn't on the show. One of their biggest stars wasn't on the show because of all the controversy and just, quite frankly, all the issues that it had caused Vince McMahon. But so it was, you know, it was Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Mr. T being brought in as a celebrity guest to work a match, getting paid more than the wrestlers, and that didn't sit right for somebody who keeps it real in professional wrestling. So Dr. D didn't like that at all. So Dr. D tried to stay humble, but he couldn't. So he had to go ask Mr. T what's that all about, because again, Dr. D was all about protecting the business, man, and that's what he was about. But they told him specifically, they said, hey, you do not mess with Mr. T. Yes, Mr. T is their golden egg that's in the building right now. You do not mess with that. And Dr. D did not care. He said, look, I'm going to ask him some questions, no matter if you like it or not, or you're going to have to fire me. So they fired him. So once they fired him, he decided that, look, okay, fine, I'm already here, I'm fired. I'm just going to have a seat and watch WrestleMania. Nonetheless, this guy was arrested, handcuffs, guns pointed at him. It was a whole big scene, and he was thrown out. And Vince McMahon, running his first WrestleMania, is having to deal with that as well too. So of course, you know that did not sit with him right. Nonetheless, that was the last time he worked for WWE. Vince cut all ties with him because it just was not like it just wasn't good for business. But I mean, like, even hearing and knowing all the guns and stuff and that how they had to do him to get him out, it's just pretty wild. But it's kind of crazy that Hulk Hogan said on the Stone Cold Steve Austin show in 2019 that story went completely different. Instead, that he wasn't just sitting at his seat. They said he actually did smack Mr. T, which is just mind-blowing. Anybody that knows Mr. T, how badass of a guy he is, the fact that another badass smacked him on WrestleMania, one of the biggest events in history at the time, that's kind of mind-blowing. And Hulk Hogan was supposed to be friends with him, just airing it out. All the dynamics of that is just, quite frankly, crazy to me. But it's crazy too that after all this happened, a couple of weeks later, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T was on a TV show, and the guy was asking him to demonstrate a simple move, and Hulk Hogan put him in a simple headlock, and the dude passes out and bumps his head on the ground and completely hurts himself because Hulk Hogan felt disrespected because the guy was laughing at him and the business and making a mockery of him. It sounds very familiar, huh? Somebody that's making fun of the business. But nonetheless, while that was on national TV, Vince cut some checks as well. Vince was cutting checks to everybody. But nonetheless, what's crazy about that is like Hulk Hogan, the golden child, he was no way Vince was letting him go. So he made that work. They worked that out, and they just, it was just swept under the rug. But it's just crazy, the two parallels between these two people. The same thing happened. One with Vince telling Dr. D to do something, and Hulk Hogan taking their own initiative of himself on the show. It's crazy to me, man. Vince was just cutting checks left day in and day out. But ultimately, Vince blackballed Dr. D from working even on the indies too. So like, he told any promoter, if you were working with that guy, he wouldn't do anything to help him. What helped them? So nonetheless, that was just the end of Dr. D's career, man. He was just done. But was that the end of his story? Heck no. Here's my favorite part. Dr. D went on to be a bounty hunter, and if he had a TV show, could they show some videos of it? If he had a TV show, please let me know. I need to see this. I need to binge this actually right now because he's way more charismatic than Dog the Bounty Hunter. So I need to see this, honestly. I sign me up for that. And Dog, while he only had like a taser, Dr. D had full-blown guns. And shoot, that story when he went to go get dude in Puerto Rico, oh my God, the reenactments just had me dead. I'm sign me up for this. Like right now, sign me up for this. But it's just a crazy story. I really had a good time this episode. It's so fun and funny, and just, everyone's in good spirits right now about it. Dr. D is not holding no ill will. Him and Hogan, I guess, aren't still cool, but nonetheless, I think they're still buddies to some extent. You can tell there's a little bit of a joking factor between, as he still made fun about Hogan not having hair. So yeah, but next week, which is going to be episode 8, is Cocaine and Cowboy Boots, the Abrams story about Herb Abrams and the UWF. I have absolutely never heard anything about this story, so I cannot wait to review that. But as always, if you want to catch my reviews, you got to stay locked in here. Stay subscribed. Definitely hit the notification bell. And as always, communicate and chat with me in the comments. I'm always going to respond. Always looking for good discussions and debate. So as always, thank you for checking my review out, and I'll catch you guys next week.